Welcome back, everyone. This is the next part in our series, Chicken Keeping 101, and we're going over the most common chicken illnesses in this video. Now, I'll cover these in a very broad sense today, as there are quite a few things that can affect chickens, and we can't be here all day learning everything there is to know about each illness and every detail about how to treat them. So let's get started. Also, keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list of all the things that could go awry with your chickens. But these are common things that we've experienced or that we know others have experienced. So first, let's cover some physical injuries that are relatively common. Of course, chickens can be impacted by a number of physical injuries, but because of how they live, there are some things that are, more specific to them. Chickens can do dumb things or get themselves into situations where they've injured a leg. You can splint a broken leg, or for a slipped tendon, you can try to put it back where it belongs. Look up videos that others have done on these topics if you want to know the how-to on that. Something else you'll want to do if this happens is separate them from the flock for about a week, give or take a few days, and give them time and space to heal without other chickens pecking at them or their wound. Next is bleeding skin, broken feathers that bleed a little, or open sores on the body from pecking or overmating if you have a rooster. A chicken injured for this reason should also be separated from the flock for either some time or go to a new permanent home if it's just one chicken that's experiencing the issue. On the other hand, if you have a mean chicken or rooster who excessively picks on the same one or two chickens, you may want to remove the mean one from your flock. In terms of how to treat, it depends on the wound. Vetericyn is an antimicrobial spray that is commonly recommended for open wound care. Others along these lines are PetSilver, Nettex Blu-Kote. These help keep the wound clean, prevent infection, and often have a purple color to disguise the blood on the chicken to deter pecking from the rest of the flock. Do your research on these products, however. We've not needed to use any of these yet, but we've heard that with many of them, it's not recommended that you eat any of the eggs from that chicken for a certain number of days during or after the use of these sprays. They would be toxic for human consumption, but they do make sprays that are non-toxic as well that you could explore. There are also several liquid or herbal or powder additives that you can put in your chicken's feed or water to give them vitamins to help boost the healing process. Poultry Cell is one that we have on hand, and it does seem to work well. If the reason for the above is from an overexcited rooster, here's what you can do. Also, keep in mind, roosters do sometimes pick a favorite hen, so this really can be a thing. But you can consider removing the rooster or removing the favorite hen from your flock. For example, if you have a mean rooster or he's otherwise being naughty and he's got a list of bad deeds that's getting longer, you may just need to go that route anyway of removing the rooster. The other thing that we have had to do and have really loved using is a chicken saddle. I'm going to include the link for the one that we have bought twice in the description of this video. It really is a great solution to that issue, and we've really loved using it. It doesn't bother the hen or the rooster as the hen goes about her day walking around or as they go about their business. Keep it on your hen for about 3 to 6 days. This allows for some healing time and for her feathers and the skin on her back to have time to heal and recover. Don't leave it on for too long at a time, however. It will start to chafe on her wings and then pull out some of the smaller feathers in that area if you do. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how in the world am I going to catch this chicken, get her to cooperate to put this thing on? This, by the way, what I'm about to explain is the solution to anything that you need to do with a specific chicken. When you need to pick them up to deal with an injury and they're skittish and they're not really into accepting your help. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait until bedtime. Chickens go into a very sleepy trance at night. They're slow, quiet, a little disoriented. They don't put up much of a fight at all for anything. So you'll go into the coop when everyone is on the roosting bar and simply pick up the chicken. Now for this situation, I would say it's a two-person job. It is definitely helpful if you have a second person helping with this. I usually have my husband pick up and hold the chicken, and then I place the saddle on her. Then simply place her back on the roosting bar and you're all set. Don't forget to bring your headlamps out to the coop or a flashlight so that you can see what you're doing. I wanted to show you the saddle that I'm referencing in today's video. So this is the underside of it. This is what it looks like on this side. I've washed it a couple of times, by the way, and it's held up well. Really good, thick material. That's some of my dog's hair, but anyway. This one has snap buttons, which when you read reviews to these online, this seems to be a really good feature. I did my research on chicken saddles before buying one, and this one not only had some of the better ratings, but when I read the comments for the other kind that just had the elastic sewn in, they noted that that can come apart really easily, obviously with just kind of the rough lifestyle of a chicken. And a lot of them noted quality with the stretchy band stretching out too easily. And again with these, the snaps are really good, really secure, and it allows you like the two different sizes if you have medium chicken or bigger chicken. If you have really small breeds, this might not work for them, but we have like many different sizes of large and medium chickens, and this has worked for a couple of them, and I know that it would work on any of the ones that we have. So I really like this one and I do recommend it. Finally, you might need to help a chicken with a predator attack that they actually survived. Depending on the severity of the wound, you'll need to determine if this is something you can treat or if you have to make the difficult decision to cull. And if you can treat the injury, you would employ the mentions that I've already discussed in this video after researching the specific wound scenario that occurred for your chicken. We have not had this problem yet, thankfully. We do have lots of predators here, living in a northern Midwestern woodland, of course, in the US. We have fox, coyote, raccoons, a pair of nesting hawks in our trees who definitely eye our chickens during the day, occasional eagles that fly overhead, and even skunks and possums in our woods. But side note here, we have a well-built coop with no access points for predators, none that have been breached yet anyway, and our coop is locked at night with the chickens safe inside. And many of these predators only come out at night. Chickens put themselves to bed at dusk before the sun has gone down fully. So I know the combination of this good chicken behavior and a secure coop have gone a long way to helping us in that area. The daytime protection we have is the rooster. For sure, without a doubt, he has saved them from some near misses, but that's a video for another day. Bumblefoot is another common physical issue. This is when the bottom foot pad has a bacterial infection. The bottom of the foot will become red, swollen, might cause temporary lameness, and you'll see the chicken limping. The swollen foot is likely to contain a pus-filled abscess. Sounds wonderful. This happens if they initially received a cut on the bottom of their foot, which then allowed in all kinds of dirt, debris, and bacteria as they walk around. Treatment requires first cleaning the wound and then using antiseptic and bandaging. Next, I want to cover some environmental issues that can impact your chickens. Lice, mites, and fleas, and other small bugs or parasites. So they live outdoors, and these are things that just can simply happen. The biggest thing that you can do to prevent these are to keep a clean coop and run. And make sure the area that they free range in is also clean. You just don't want a bunch of junk or trash laying around the places that they're going to roam, things that could be a breeding ground for this type of pest. Changing out the bedding in the coop and keeping the floor of the run clean is very important. Another important factor is allowing them places for dust bathing. Dust bathing is something that chickens will always seek to do. Here's kind of some examples of how they're doing it in the coop. You see this, I have this little box that was meant for dust bathing. They really weren't using it, by the way. They like to find their own places to do this. Outside, there's several, big holes up against trees. Some of our larger, more mature trees, there's kind of these deep holes in the ground of where they have decided to, turn that area into a dusting bath. On the other side of this box is another. I don't know if you can see the depth, kind of. Anyway, and then they have some others along the floor in here, but when they're free ranging in all of the other months, when it's warm enough out and the ground is not wet, of course, they'll find places outside to do that. They made quite a big hole up against our pole barn, the base of our pole barn, so that was not great. But they're looking for very soft, fine dirt, so literally like dusty fine dirt, and they will literally lay in it, roll in it. They have a way with their wings to you know, fluff it all over their bodies, and they literally, you know, it looks like an awkward bath, but it does look like a bath. They're literally bathing themselves with the dirt. It makes those smaller bugs like that, you know, fall off, suffocates them a little bit, basically keeps them from having that issue. If you find that you have a bug infestation like this in the coop, the entire coop needs to be cleared out of whatever bedding you have in it, cleaned thoroughly from top to bottom, and then fresh bedding put back in. You also simultaneously need to treat your chickens with a variety of powders or sprays. I've also seen people recommend cleaning the coop, treating the chickens, and then a week later clean out their bedding again as a just in case, trying to make sure that you get all of the nasty little critters. Scaly leg mites in particular, that's an interesting one. Look that up. But for that, you would do a lot of the same things we've already discussed, but also in particular applying Vaseline to the legs and feet of the chicken, just the ones that are affected, of course, in that case. Vaseline smothers the mites and kills them. It's a good, less toxic way to treat them as well. Another thing that can happen is coccidia, or coccidiosis. Coccidia is the name of the protozoa, but it's a microscopic protozoa which damage the intestinal lining. They are often a fatal parasite for chickens. The damage that they cause leads to inability to absorb nutrients, sometimes bloody diarrhea and weight loss. This is treatable, however, if you can recognize it quickly and administer treatment. Amprolium, or as you most commonly see it called, Corid, is the most popular treatment and is available in powder or liquid form, and it can be added to feed and water. You can buy this at any farm supply store or online. It is not an antibiotic. Another thing I'll say that I learned about this, you don't want to use Corid as a preventative treatment. There are some other preventative natural things you can do to prevent coccidia and other worms and such in chickens. But administering that as that treatment, it's very harsh on their bodies. It's going to cause shedding of the intestinal lining as well, so you're going to get bloody stools from them if they don't actually have that issue. You might be causing damage to them, so you don't want to give that to them as a preventative. All right, next up we're going to have a broad category of worms. Roundworms, hairworms, tapeworms, and less commonly grape worms can all affect chickens. These are all very treatable in chickens, however. Aquasol Dewormer or VetRx are common options for treatment. Another thing that can come up is sour crop or other digestive issues. It occurs when food ferments in the chicken's crop due to yeast or bacterial overgrowth. Symptoms include a squishy or swollen crop that doesn't go away by the next day, foul odor coming from your chicken, particularly the mouth, but if you were to even just get up close to them, you can still smell it. Lethargy or dribbling liquid from their beak. That's not typical. It can potentially cause starvation. Treatment involves helping the chicken to empty the crop. And there are several ways you can go about this, so look up methods if you think that is your concern. I'm kind of chuckling because we think that one of our chickens had sour crop, and trying to figure out how to treat that was very interesting. But you are helping them empty the crop via the mouth. You're not trying to have it go the other way because it's stuck in that beginning process of their digestive system, so it has to come back out of the mouth, so essentially helping your chicken vomit. So it's a very interesting process if you have to deal with that. Okay, next up is viruses, lumping these all together as well. You have Marek's disease, Newcastle disease, avian flu, bronchitis, and fowl pox. So as not to keep us here all day, I won't go over each one of these individually, but I wanted to give you the names so that you can look them up as needed. Another issue that your chickens could face is heart or circulatory issues. These are just common in chickens, period. This is something that if it's happening with your chicken, it's going to happen, and there's really not much you can do about it. I've heard a lot of backyard chicken keepers say they think their chicken simply had a heart attack or something related based on their symptoms immediately prior to them becoming ill. Or, for example, they're just running around, they seem to be happy and healthy in the chicken yard, and then they just fall over and pass away immediately. So in that case, they're not having any symptoms. To wrap up, I do want to encourage you, don't be overwhelmed by this information. Do not be worried thinking that as soon as you get your flock in place, you're going to be dealing with any number of these issues at once or even at all. That is not the case. I've mentioned in prior videos that we've had some chickens pass away for various reasons, but the things they had were not related to each other for the most part, and thankfully didn't affect our whole flock. I think that 2 of ours passed away from Merrick's disease, which is something that they came with. If it's going to show up in you, it shows up, and for a chicken, it's fatal. It's not catchy though after a certain age. So while it is very catchy when they're, first at a hatchery and first born, after a few weeks, if it presents itself, it's going to harm the chicken, unfortunately, but it's not going to affect the rest of your flock. And then 1 passed away because she had a slipped tendon, which caused her to limp, and that caused the rest of the flock to keep her from food and water, unfortunately, and she just didn't recover from that. Another chicken we think possibly ate something it shouldn't have, and most recently we did have 1 pass from what we think were circulatory issues. I've also talked to a lot of chicken keepers who've kept chickens for 10 or 20 years, and they say that they've had to deal with maybe 1 or 2 of these situations in that time and not had others happen at all in that length of time. So these are not things to immediately worry about, but just to be aware of. Also, consider buying some of the over-the-counter items that I've mentioned in this video to have on hand if you need them. Once again, thanks for stopping by the homestead today. We'll see you next time. Please like, subscribe, and check out my Buy Me a Coffee link in the description to support our channel.